Welcome to this first episode of The Odd Couple. Now, when two equal and opposite forces are separated by a perpendicular distance, it creates a couple. When you get Gerry Samson, orthodontist, with myself, Stephane Reinhardt, general dentist, together, you have an orthodontist and dentist discussing, or what you could call an odd couple. I have the privilege of being friends with Dr. Samson, or Gerry, or the tribal elder, as I would call him. Gerry is one of the most funny person I met, and definitely one who made a positive change in my life. When we start talking together, we forget about time, and this is when the idea of this Odd Couple podcast came to us. Join us for these wonderful and engaging conversations spiced with a blend of biting wit and edgy humor. A method that has made Gerry one of today's most popular educator. A method that has inspired and continues to inspire me. Without further ado, let's join my friend Gerry for the first episode of this Odd Couple podcast. Gerry, I've been in practice for 40 years now, and I'm 65, and you're 82, and you're still going. What keeps you? I mean, you could stop, but you are still there. I mean, how? And I look at you. You look like you're 72.
You don't look a day over 72.
Yeah. But Gerry, seriously, you're 72 years old. I'm 52 years old. And I look up to you. I want to be like you. So what keeps you going on? What drives you? I don't like to call it passion, but it has to be something.
I think what people have to figure out is what kicks their wheel. What kind of gets them fired up. And those things change, don't they? I mean, they don't stay the same. Like we were just talking, Stephane, you and I were just talking about why I, for example, or some of my mentors kept going. Why did they? What was it behind that? And I think that I think there's two issues. And they're not original with me. They're articulations of things I've read from Rollo May and, believe it or not, Carlos Santana. And I think enthusiasm is, as Rollo May said, I think enthusiasm and creativity are the answers to the frailty of human aging. And I've seen quite a number of my colleagues lose their enthusiasm because they let it go. It didn't leave them; they left it, and they lost their creativity because they left it. They left it at a party somewhere. I mean, they left it in New York City. I guess I don't know what they did, but I think it's weak. It's a weak thing. Why would you want to do that? I mean, it's Stephane, you've heard me talk about my dad's older brother. By 9 years, he was the children of illiterate Russian immigrants. Mm-hmm. This is my uncle. And he was a completely self-made man. He was a lawyer as well as a CPA. And he had a couple of significant failures in his business career where he told me he should have gone bankrupt. He actually told me, he said he was sitting in his law office, which was on the 8th floor, a little office of some building. And he started realizing the economy was so bad and mistakes he had made. He said, I started thinking I'm worth a lot more dead than alive. And I looked at him and I said, what's that supposed to mean here, Uncle? And he said, I was thinking, I could jump out the window.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And he was laughing. He was laughing and he was saying, because at this point, he had become so financially successful. He was like an icon in his city. And he was laughing. And then people in the family, with only one particular person, were pushing him. He should retire. He has, all of this money. He's got enough money to do whatever he wants with his wife for the rest of his life and blah, blah, blah. And I said, retire? Why would you do that? Well, he finally gave in.
Oh, really?
And then he lived to be pretty old. He was pushing 100.
Oh, really?
And and I said to him, he retired when he was 80. And I said he was about 85 or 87. And I said to him, well, how's this retirement thing working out for you? And he looked at me kind of, almost like looking through me wistfully, gazing into the past, not into the future. Mm-hmm. And he said, I should have held on to just one of those businesses, just one small business. Mm-hmm. And it occurred to me, it was, like somebody hitting me, that he let it go. It didn't let him go. He let it go. Yeah. And I think that's what's happening with some people with this mess of COVID and the mess of the politics. I mean, Juan Roberto Lopez in Medellin, Colombia, that, he pointed out to me recently, he said, but there's no government, there's no culture anywhere that's happy with how the government is handling this. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, nobody's happy. I mean, you think the French are happy, you think the Germans are happy. I mean, the Spanish, everything is spiking everywhere. Yeah. But of course they blame the politicians. Yeah, people that are doing that are letting go of their own ability to control their own emotions. Yeah. I mean, I think I mean, it sounds awful to some people that I'm sure that are watching and listening to the podcast, but I think it's weak. I mean, mm-hmm. I won't do it myself because I'm not a coward. I think it's cowardly mm-hmm. to just cave in. Mm-hmm. And, it comes to mind some of the things that we talked about what we would do for the visual podcast, I guess is what your plan is, huh? It's a visual podcast.
Visual podcast. Yeah. Well, I think the idea is to have both. So you can, for those of you who wants to watch us, well, you can have the pleasure of watching us. You can turn the sound off if you only want to look. And for the others who don't want to see us and just hear us, then you can listen to the audio podcast. Yeah. So everybody's happy.
Can they blank just me? Can they mute just my face? They can only see me.
Everything can be done. They can mask you. They can put. I can even have my picture on both sides.
Now there's a good idea.
I could have a still picture of me representing you, and.
But I think that I think that that when people think about this test of who you are, it's not just a test of who you are; it's who you're not.
Yeah.
And for some people, and I mean, I'm not categorizing this by age groups, but there are some people who really have never experienced their own failure mm-hmm. because they always blame somebody else. Mm-hmm. That's not experiencing your own failure. That's blaming somebody else.
It's much easier to always blame the others.
It's weak.
It's weak. Yeah, but it's easier. And it's much easier to do. But I compare that all the time to when I see patients, and I will always remember when I started doing fixed orthodontics. I started doing fixed because I wanted to treat I started doing orthodontics. Now I'm a general dentist. I'm a general dentist. You're an orthodontist. You're a pedodontist. I'm a general dentist. In 1999, I wanted to start doing orthodontics because I wanted to treat my son. And that was the reason. I wanted to treat my son, had no... it was really basic what we learned at university, really more than basic. So I didn't really have an idea of what to do. So I had to go and get courses and learn. And I put a lot of time. I'm still learning. But the thing is that every time I saw a patient, every time something was not going as planned. I was always, and even in everything else I was doing in dentistry, the first person I was blaming was myself. I always thought it was because of something I did or I didn't do. I was not blaming the patient. I was not blaming he's not wearing he's not, I was the first person to blame was always me. And I was always thinking, is there something I didn't do? Is there something I didn't get? Is there something? So it it's exactly what you're saying. It's like if I'm always blaming my patients for something that didn't work, well, it's easier, but it's weak. Look at yourself. Look at maybe there's something, maybe just maybe there's something that you no, it's always possible. We're not perfect. And this you're talking about this pandemic thing and blaming the government and everything. I don't know about you, but it's my first one.
Yeah, it may be my last one.
Yeah, well, it may be my last one too. And let's hope it's my last one. But depending when the next one's going to be. But the thing is that it's the first one for everyone, and we are all learning from this. We are, I mean, the government are there to take decisions, and I think they probably want to take the best decision there is. And there's a reason why they don't take all the same decisions, because again, like you always say, I don't know how many times I've repeated that. There's not only one good way to do things, otherwise we would all be doing it. And since it's our first pandemic, and probably for almost everybody on earth, it's the first one, well, we all try to do our best. And some maybe will have when we are going to look back after, it's going to be easy to say, well, they did it right and they were wrong, and they but still, I honestly, do you think that people now will on purpose try to take bad decisions?
Yeah.
Who would it benefit?
Yeah, that's always a provocative question: is who does it benefit? And I think it's shameful. And of course, Stephane, you can edit this out. But like I think most people understand that you're in Quebec and I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, in the U.S.
And this, by the way, is one of the reasons why we call this podcast The Odd Couple. Because what's a couple, Gerry?
Equal and opposite forces separated by a perpendicular distance. So we're separate. I don't think we're equal and opposite forces most of the time, but we are certainly separated by some perpendicular distance.
Exactly. That's it. And you're coming from the south, I'm coming from the north, and together we are creating rotation, pure rotation outside of the box.
The center of resistance and center of rotation are the same. It's up to you folks to decide which of us is the center of resistance and which of us is the center of rotation. And as you think about that, yes. But I think one of the lessons that one of the things that I'm most tired of, Stephane, and I really don't know what's going on in Canada or specifically in your province.
Yeah.
But here it is just shameful how the politicians, the Democrats blame the Republicans and the Republicans blame the Democrats. Mm-hmm. I did, as you know, Stephane, I was doing about, for 20 years, it may have been longer. It might've been 30. I was a consultant for the 3M Corporation, as in 3M Worldwide, that corporation. I was a consultant for the orthodontic division, which doesn't exist anymore. It's called Unitech, or was called Unitech. Now it's 3M Alignment. And I was told early on in my relationship with 3M that the 3M attitude is, and if you look at their marketing, it's true. It is never what's wrong with the competition. That's never their approach. It's never what's wrong with them. It's what's right with us. And if you look at this, the way these politicians have acted in the USA, they just keep throwing down on the opposition. They just keep blaming the other side instead of, I've forced myself to watch some of these waste of time debates, and no one is saying this is what I would do about it with substance. What they're saying is you're wrong. This is your fault. This is what, or you're going to cause these problems. And I think that should be embarrassing. Don't you think so, Stephane? I should be embarrassed. What if one of your children acted like that? What would you do?
No, that's it. I mean,
no, that's who we got. We don't do that.
Beep, beep, beep.
Yeah. Here's what you do.
I heard a guy.
Here. Yeah. So
no, but I heard this guy. I don't remember his name. He's really well known. We see him everywhere on the LinkedIn and everything. Gerry something, and he was saying, you'd never elevate yourself by destroying the others.
That's right.
By burning down the village. You just build higher than the others.
It's interesting because this is what we have talked about, you and the C.L.E.A.R Institute, and because I still consider you an important part of Gnathos. What we talk about is when a patient says, and I'd like everyone who's watching and listening to think about this, what is your response before Stephane and I say what ours is? But what is your response, and what is your team's response when a patient says, well, the other doctor told me something else, or this other person might even not be a doctor. Or I was looking on Google. Now there is a reason to raise your prices. Someone says, well, I was reading on Google, price just went up. And why did I see that? Why did I hear that? Why did someone tell me that? And I'm wondering for the people on the podcast, the pod viewcast, what is your answer before we say, what's your answer? Because I'm sure Stephane's asked that among C.L.E.A.R Institute people, and I ask it regularly in Gnathos, and or the postgraduate students of the 6 appointments that I have around the country. I ask them, what is your answer? And what's interesting is people's responses vary from, you can leave my office, that's not smart. Or they come across with an attitude that I really don't care what you think or what the other person thinks. It runs the gamut to, I don't know what to say. So Stephane, what do you say when someone asks you about in anything in dentistry? Well, why did someone tell me something different? You're saying that you don't think you need to take teeth out, or you're quite sure you don't, somewhere in there. And the other person says, no, I think teeth need to be removed. What's your response?
Well, I mean, there's different ways to see it, because sometimes, they will, sometimes they come from, you're the second consultation or the third consultation. And I had one this week, and, she was saying things, and, it doesn't come from her. They're using terms, the things that they heard from another dentist. And some others sometimes will say, well, my neighbor told me that, blah, blah, blah. My neighbor told me that you're not supposed to do that. And when that happens, with the neighbor, or I always ask, oh yeah, where is she practicing, or where do they practice, or when did they graduate from? They say, no, they're not dentists. I say, oh, okay. So, but I'm never, and I was never, even if I look back, I was never threatened by that. And I think we have to accept that today. One great thing I learned from you, I learned a lot from you, I'm still learning from you, was that to say to someone, sometimes, it's always a good idea to get a second opinion. And to tell them, even, I think orthodontic is special in a way that you are creating a relation with a patient. It's not like doing a root canal. It's not like placing an implant where you could see a patient only for one appointment and then it's done. I think for orthodontic to work, and especially with what we're doing with aligners, with braces, where you need compliance from your patient, they have to like you. So for me, it's not like I have to do all the cases. It's I need this relation with the patient. I need to make sure we're going to connect. And if I feel that we cannot connect, I think it's better they go to somewhere else. I never feel threatened by somebody who will think differently than me, because I think it's good. We may have different views, different opinions, and I will never, I never did, and I never will take somebody down even if I really think the opposite. Let's say you're giving the example of, well, he told me that I need to do extractions, and you're telling me I don't need extractions. He's not. I said, no, that's not true, because at the end of the day, I compare it, when I talk to patient, I compare it to having a GPS. And I say, when you have a GPS and you're just setting your route, you have the initial position, you have the destination. And the GPS can offer you different roads. You can decide to go this road, you can decide to go the other road, and decide to go the other road. So that's for you to choose, but the end result, the goal is the same. So I might choose to go this way, another dentist might choose to go this way, another one might choose to go this way. But we're all aiming for the same result, which is your satisfaction. We want you to be a good function, have a nice smile, being able to chew. And so it's never, it's not a threat for me. It's not. And even when somebody says, I want to go to see somewhere else, it's not a problem. It's never been a problem. I don't feel threatened by that. I never lose patient for that. Sometimes I see dentists, they don't even want to transfer an X-ray. I'm like a second consultation. I know they took a panel 2 weeks ago to a dentist, and we just want to transfer it because we don't want to take another one to the patient, and they don't want to transfer it. They're making problems with small things like that. So how little can you be when yesterday my a new hygienist at the clinic told me she was working for a dentist who was measuring how much floss she was taking for every patient.
All right.
I mean, do something else. If you are worried about how much floss your hygienists are taking you don't have enough to do.
That it occurs to me that particular individual could squeeze the loony off of a loony.
That's it. So did I answer your question? I'm not sure I did.
Well, it's worth expounding. It's worth discussion of what do you say, what do you not say, and part of what I learned to say, and this was not, don't make the mistake if when you're listening to this of thinking that I just dreamt these things up instantaneously. No, it was discovery, and it was realizing what you just emphasized, Stephane, that it's important in the relationship you have with everyone, professionally, and you don't have friends you don't like, or I suppose when you're younger you do, but I don't have friends I don't like, and I don't have. If someone doesn't like me, then I don't understand why they would want to be friends with me. Now, a relationship or a colleague, that's different. But you recall the studies I did through the National Institute of Health in the 80s. I had a very famous psychologist, and I had a 3-year grant through the Division of Behavioral Medicine. And we studied what's the main reason people cooperate. if they don't have to cooperate. So we're not talking about non-elective surgery. We're not talking about taking non-elective medications. I mean, you do that out of fear and a fear of the consequences. Well, what you just said is what we found out, that the main reason, not the only reason, the main reason that people cooperate when they're asked to do something is because they like the person who asked them. Our next phase of the 3-year study, think about your own behavior. If someone asks you to do something and you like that person, you're likely to do it and do it rather quickly and do it right the first time. The next thing we looked at was, what's the main reason, not the only reason, the main reason that people like you. And what we found overwhelmingly, and we published this in psychology journals as well as orthodontic journals. This is again back in the 80s. And if you're listening to this and you'd like the references, you can email me and I'll send you the references. You can read it yourself. It's rather boring to read the research, but the conclusions are very, I think, very engaging. Main reason people cooperate is because they like you. Now, what's the main reason that people like you? Not the only reason, the main reason. Now think about that. Or what's the main reason people stop liking you or you stop liking someone else? I know. What is it?
People like you because they feel that you care.
Yes.
And not only they feel that you care, you care.
That's right. You actually do. About that circumstance. Now, you do care if you're a dentist with a heart. Yeah, you care that this comes out to your satisfaction and their satisfaction. You care that they're happy with the office. You care that they find coming to you and your team is a pleasant experience, even though going for the general dental specialists, and that's how I consider it, is I consider general dentistry the most difficult specialty in dentistry. It's the hardest thing. It's why I didn't do it. I mean, it was too hard for me to do.
I mean, especially now, Gerry, especially nowadays. Even me, I've been in practice 28 years now. And I mean, what we had to learn 28 years ago compared to what they have to learn now. I mean, being a good general dentist, I see the only thing I do now is I work with clear aligners. I don't do anything else. Well, maybe 98% of my practice is clear aligners. And I look at general dentists who they do endodontic treatment, they do implants, they do surgery, they do crazy things, and they're good. And they can manage to do everything in the same day. For me, this is exceptional. And I think you were the first one I heard saying that the most difficult specialty now is the specialty of general dentistry. And I remember when the first time I heard you say that, it was like, whoa, it's like an electroshock. What is this guy just said? Come on, he has two specialties. But yeah, I get it. It's true.
I think that any specialist I've ever talked to, and I must say that I'll put pediatric dentists. I'm biased because my first formal training was in pediatric dentistry, so I'm biased. But pediatric dentists, when I say, well, if obviously you feel the same way I do, that's why you specialize. General dentistry was too difficult for you, and the pediatric dentist will, it's like, oh, amen. Ooh, yeah, well, I believe that. Now, some of my orthodontic colleagues, they'll sometimes they'll look like they just smelled something bad, or they're not quick to admit it, because orthodontists are justified. It's I don't know if it's not justifiable. But and if you're an orthodontist listening to this, you might want to shut this off right now. But
no, wait.
Give them time to shut it off. Wait. orthodontists are guilty of
I
arrogance.
think, yeah, but I think they maybe shut it off when I said I was a general dentist.
Yeah. Well,
It's already done, Gerry.
but here's an interesting, here's something that's interesting. You just said
This is
that,
the elephant in the room.
yeah. Well, yeah, the elephant in the room is general dentistry is too hard for specialists to do.
Ooh.
And oral surgeons admitted to me, oral surgeon is one of my closest friends from dental school that I'm still real tight with. He's a retired oral surgeon. And he said, problems with a patient, all you do is sedate them. How do you have a problem with a patient who's sedated? You take out their teeth, you do whatever you're going to cut them, you take out with it, whatever it is, and they heal up and then they go away. You know, orthodontists, you've got to deal with these people, you know, for long term. And in general dentistry, Dios mío.
You're married with them.
Yeah.
And you're married. I mean, that's it.
When you're a general dentist, you know, the repeat business is absolutely critical.
Of course.
They've got to come back. And in oral surgery, in endo, in perio,
you have to keep the front door has to be open all the time, but you have to keep the back door closed. That's it. This is how it works.
Now there's an interesting image. I mean, that's very, from an image, it's a bit poetic that, you know, you can't have them running if they don't come. Plus, what are they going to say about you to their friends? I mean, why did you leave this guy, Samson, the general dentist? You know, what, I thought that you were, well, no, let me tell you something that happened. You know, it wasn't really him, but it was somebody else in the office.
And it's easy now, much easier today with these things to share.
That is it's a instrument of creativity and destruction.
Yes. So
here's an interesting thought. A lot of people listening to the podcast are, if you're an orthodontist anywhere on planet Earth and you don't know who Lyle Johnston is, that's just odd. That, you know, if you're a non-orthodontist, okay, but if you're an orthodontist, Lyle Johnston, I'm in the camp that feels that he's in the category of the most brilliant clinical researchers. I think he's the most brilliant one who's ever lived. Now, he's never practiced clinical orthodontics. He's a clinical researcher with so many awards between Lyle and his students. I mean, I can't even, it's like over 300. It's something insane. Well, one day, and my department chairman in orthodontics at Northwestern was not Lyle Johnston. It was Harold T. Perry Jr. Story for another time. Well, Lyle is fully retired now. He's 83 or 85, something like that. And you can't get him back out. So his comment was, nobody wants to hear what an orthodontist in their mid-80s thinks or cares. And everything I've had to say, I've said more than once, and I'm not going to be guilty of becoming some boring, aging orthodontist who really should stay home and keep his mouth shut. Admirable. All right. My point is that one day we were working on some things together. The weather was bad, so we were in the lower level of his house. And I was working on a biomechanics presentation, and he was working on statistics of a paper. And I remember saying to him, you know, Lyle, you run your own statistics. He said, right. And I said, you taught statistics at all the different programs you shared. Yes, I did. I said, do you have a degree in statistics? He said, no, I'm self-taught. And he looked at me and he said, do you have a degree in mechanical engineering? And I said, no. He said, you're self-taught. Well, the motivation of being self-taught is beyond measure. I mean, look at you. You're self-taught in orthodontics. You're self-taught in clear aligners. You're self-taught in how to teach. So, I mean, I've got a pretty good idea because not only of our friendship, but our professional relationship in discussing mechanics, for example, which is unarguably, maybe it's the most challenging thing in clinical orthodontics is mechanics. People can blow off diagnosis, they can blow off retainers, they can blow, but they can't blow off the mechanics of the case. You know, because what are you going to do when it's not working, or what are you going to do when it, how about this, goes wrong? What are you going to do now?
And not if, but when.
When. You've got to have the confidence. So, you know, you and I have discussed these things about, well, we've done all of our presentations called the challenge.
Yeah.
Right. Where we talk about different ways of problem solving with clear aligners compared to fixed appliances, and fixed appliances compared to clear aligners. So I know what's going on in your head, and as far as your knowledge of mechanics. And I don't need to tell you this, but you know how I feel. I'll put you up against anybody, any orthodontist. I don't care what their training is. They studied under Burstone or Isaacson. Fine, bring them on. But that is a matter of hard work, isn't it, Stephane? It is not a matter of if you just get it. You know, I mean, some people catch on quicker than others.
Yeah.
But you, as one of my students, and again, there's no reason for me to soap you up with this, as we say here in my part of the States. You catch on very, very, very quickly, because I've taught thousands of people mechanics, thousands around the world. And I can tell, even if English isn't there, even if they don't speak English, I can tell by looking in their eyes. You know, I mean, if they get this, you know, reptilian hazed over look, okay, let me try explaining that again. Yeah, right. They start mouth breathing. No, chair. No.
But those...
Well, but you have to work at it. That's my point, is you have to work hard at it, like I did. I had to work. I have to work harder at understanding things than most people.
I still do sometimes. You still have to. I mean, a couple of times you sent me things. You sent, you know, about biomechanics and things we see on Facebook and everything, and we have to sit, look at it, and try to figure it out. And it makes you think. And I mean, how many times have you seen a patient, even when before you stop treating patient? I'm sure sometimes you saw a patient and your assistant is wondering, what is he? Does he have a seizure or something? And you're just
right. There. Does he have a stroke?
Yeah, that's it. You're just thinking, even though you had 40 years of practice, or you're still thinking, because every case is a new chapter in your book. There's no recipe. You always have to figure out, okay, what's happening here? What's happening? Maybe I've seen something similar to this, but this thing is, that's the first time I see this. And you have to figure out what happened. And there's a lot of possibilities. And sometimes it's not only one thing, it's a combination of things. We're talking about clear aligners. Well, is it compliance? Is it force? Is it space? Is it combination of all those things? We don't. But you have to figure it out. And if you, when I started with you. First time I went to your course was in 2009, I think. And because of that's, again, could be another story. But it was Dr. Mulligan who recommended my friend Frederick Poirier and me to go see you. And that was, I mean, I have to thank him. I never saw him again. I never had the chance to thank him, but I thank him for this, because it was a great gift that he gave me. And when I started, I mean, it was a life-changing experience, a game changer when I started to go to your course, doing the CMDD course. But you know, after that we had the CMDD. After that, we went every year. We had the advanced course, and I did other courses with you, finishing, and I think every time, tell me if I'm mistaken, but I think that in every course you always bring back the just a moment thing. Just a moment. And you talk again about translation, center of resistance, center of rotation, what's a couple? What's a moment? A moment of force, a moment of couple. And the first time you're like, second time, and but there comes a time when you repeat and repeat, where when you say it, we're just going like this. And this is when we get it and when we understand. And even when you understand it, you're happy to see it again. And you're happy to finally get that, now I understand this thing. And you see it. You see it when you teach. You see it when you're in front of the classroom. You're saying these things and you see people going like this. You're like, okay, that's it. They just got it now. And once you get it,
it's one of the remarkable things about education is when you see in someone's face and their body language, not just their eyes,
yeah,
but see they just got it. That's bang, it just hit.
That's it.
And sometimes, frequently, you get it, and then the got it goes away. It goes away, and you got to get it back.
Yeah.
And it's one of the like the last time I was watching you. Well, it was actually last night when you were doing the mocha. Yeah. It's the intermediate. Was that it last night?
It was the intermediate course. Right?
Yeah. You were emphasizing that the falsehood of the ClinCheck is that these technicians sitting somewhere who are not dentists, they have no dental training, formal dental training in a dental school, that the problem with the case not working is the problem with the way the technician set it up. And I've heard you emphasize that as well, is you've got to be able to figure this out. You can't be, what did you say last night? There's never been a ClinCheck that you didn't change a fair amount of what they were saying.
That's it.
Well,
even though I fill my prescription, even though I give special instructions, there is always something to change.
And the same thing happens among orthodontic specialists, that being, well, I think I'll change to the Roth prescription. I'll change to the MBT prescription. I think I'll change to the Damon prescription.
Thinking it's going to do everything.
Yeah, because they're listening to talking heads that are, they're the Pied Piper. And, sometimes I think, are you a rodent being led around by the Pied Piper? Is that what's going on? Yes, exactly. I mean, the mechanics, perfect. The mechanics of, as we're always talking about, the mechanics are the same. It's the application. Yeah. You're always applying the same mechanics to other creative applications.
But these, why I'm showing this is, come on. It's because we're blaming the plastic. We're blaming, those things are tools. They're just, here, catch. Those things are tools. That's it. It's not doing anything. So it's easy to blame the plastic if something goes wrong or doesn't work, but this, the teeth are not selective. We'll not say, oh, it's metal, then we move, or it's plastic, we don't move, or this is not how it works. This thing is not to blame. This is not, if something doesn't go as planned, it's because there's probably something you didn't get.
Yeah, there's the funny image, and again, I'll give Lyle Johnston credit for this because he's incredibly funny, and he was saying it under a different circumstance, but this imagery comes from him. Here are two teeth in an arch, and they're sitting next to each other. Yeah, they're sitting right there, and in goes the aligner, and one tooth says to the other, "Ooh, I feel the plastic. I think I'll respond." And the other tooth says, "Nah, I don't like the plastic. I like metal. I'm not going anywhere." The teeth, their teeth are really, they're really quite stupid. They don't, all they know is that there's a pressure on it.
They have no brain. They have no feelings. That's it.
Yeah, they're not politically motivated.
No, that's it. So it's all about, how who said that beliefs will always trump the facts.
Yeah, that was Daniel Gilbert in
Daniel
Stumbling
Gilbert.
on Happiness.
A
It doesn't
belief
matter what the
you should
facts are.
read.
In my hands, that's a belief system. In what I think, that's a belief system.
That's a belief
That's not a
system.
fact.
That's it. Doesn't mean it's not good.
No.
It's just you have to be able to make the difference between both.
Yeah, and I think that it's just it's not how you and I are put together that we're not going to be easily led. If you can't give me some solid reasoning about, all right, you don't have to have a randomized clinical trial that followed the scientific method into the great abyss. You don't have to have that, but you do have to have something that makes sense other than quoting the Journal of Black Box Orthodontics, the Journal of Let's Make More Money Orthodontics, or the Journal of Let's Follow the Crowd Dentistry. It's just not. Maybe it works for some people, it doesn't work for me.
Yeah, that's it. But it all comes back to what's the difference between scientific evidence and clinical opinions. I
Well,
see again. You always say that. I mean, it's not doesn't mean that one is better than the other. It's just you have to know that if what you're telling me is your clinical opinion, perfect. But tell me it's your clinical opinion.
yeah,
This
don't.
is something that works in your hands.
Yeah, that I remember quite a few decades ago. I was in a lecture sitting next to a highly respected oral and maxillofacial surgeon, and a world, if not globally famous, cosmically famous oral and maxillofacial surgeon is just up there, just pontificating. I mean, he is just preaching to the great unwashed. And the oral surgeon I'm sitting next to, who I was quite good friends with at the time, said, "That's not right. What he's saying, that's absolutely not right." So finally, the oral surgeon I'm sitting next to, Stephane, raises his hand at the appropriate time and said, "You said a few minutes ago, and do you have any proof for that? Because I have to question that." And it was very professionally stated. Well, the cosmically intergalactically famous surgeon says, "Well, that was published in and this guy leans over to me and he said, "I don't think so." Well, after the lecture is done, in the next week, the oral surgeon who I'm friends with calls me up and said to me, "I'll show you how long ago it was, Stephane. It was before email. Okay. It was when fax machines had come out." Calls me up and he said, "I'm going to fax you something. That guy, Doctor, I'm so full of myself I can't see straight. That guy was wrong. And here's the article to show he was wrong." So I said, I'm looking at the facts, and I said, "Well, are you going to send it to, Doctor, I'm the greatest and you're not? Are you going to send that to him?" He said, "Absolutely." Mm-hmm. Well, what do you think happened? Nothing happened. Of course. Nothing. Mm-hmm. Nothing.
Mm-hmm. I know, of course.
But it should be an embarrassment to behave that way. If people are interested in what we have to say, we're never going to behave that way. Just so I don't know the answer. And just to conclude, I want to mention something I started up, which is, what do you and the team say when the question is asked by the patient or a parent? Why are you telling me something different than the other doc or the other docs? And you said, well, get some other opinions. Well, the patient could say, "Well, you are my other opinion."
Yeah, I don't know.
What I was quite comfortable saying was, I'd say, "Well, I don't know.
I don't know. That's it.
Why the other person told you that. No, you'd have to ask them. But I can explain to you why I think this. Now, what I'm here to do is to provide you with enough information so that you're comfortable making a decision about what you think is best. That's what I'm here to do." Yeah. But you really should ask the other person. Yeah. And I've had people say everything from like, "Well, okay," to, "Well, would you call the other person?" Now, really, why would I do that? I mean, do you think I have nothing better to do? I don't say that to him, but I'm thinking, do you think I have nothing better to do? I mean, first of all, you're confusing me with someone who cares what the other person thinks. So, but I learned to put on,
yeah. You learn. That's it.
put on the mask,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Put on
That's
the
it.
mask,
Uh-huh.
and I'd say, well, actually, I guess that's an interesting request. So let me do this. I'm going to give you my business card, and here's my office phone, and have them call me.
Exactly.
And no one ever did.
That's it.
I mean, no one ever did
It's
it.
a big difference when these people tell tell them to call me
and put it in the record.
Yeah.
Put it in the patient's record that you explained to whoever the individual was. Put down it was the patient's mom or dad, or it was an adult patient. And I said, like in speech therapy, well, but why did the speech therapist tell me that the malocclusion was responsible for my kid not being able to speak certain speech sounds clearly? Why did they tell me that? I say, oh, I don't know why they told you that. Well, would you talk to the speech therapist? Sure, have them call me. Write it in the chart. And then if the patient comes back for in this case, for their orthodontics, fine. And they say, well, did you talk to the speech therapist? And my answer is, well, just one. Actually, sorry, I have a note here that you were going to ask that person to call me, and I don't think they did. I mean, maybe I missed the message, but did you have the time to ask? Did you have the time to ask them to call me? And I turn it right back on them, because once in a while it would be, oh yeah, you mean they didn't call you? I told them to. I said, well, maybe I missed the message, but I have an answering machine. I mean, let me check with the front desk, because now who looks like the fool?
You have a fax machine too.
Now I have email. I mean, you can send me a smoke signal. You can send me a carrier pigeon. I mean,
carrier pigeon. I don't know if that would work from Montreal to Atlanta.
Well, one can only. It depends on what
type of. That direction could maybe be better than the opposite, especially now.
Yeah. Well, Stephane, it's always a delight to speak with you.
Gerry, and we could go on and on and on, but we'll leave it for other episodes of this odd couple.
Instead of the podcast, we should be calling it the Oddcast.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. The Oddcast for the pod couple, or the podcast of the odd couple.
Well, what we invite you to do is we invite you to email, contact us for things that you're interested in. And as you can tell, they might not exactly be dental things. Now, we're staying away from anything that could be offensive, anything that might even tickle at being offensive. Like you'll notice that we joke around about each other and with each other, but we don't tell jokes, because jokes are always at someone's expense. So if you ask about things that could be controversy, is fine. But if it is controversial and it could be insulting or upsetting, that'll probably get put into the trash file. But we do, right, Stephane? We're inviting you to send us in.
We are. You will, for those of you who are looking at this, there's a link right there. You can see here. Or otherwise, you can send us. You have the link also on the podcast. When you go on the description, the links are there if you want to reach us. We want this podcast to be about life and dentistry, life as dentist, life as that's about it. So it's not only about, orthodontics, or it's about everything that revolves around that and our reality. What's the reality? What was? There's so much that we can talk about. There's so much experience just there, and yeah, it's gonna be. We have a lot of ideas and subjects we want to cover, and like you see, once we start talking, there's it's hard to stop.
Well, one of the things we can, obviously, Stephane is running the C.L.E.A.R Institute, focusing on clear aligners. And I have heard from people that are now your students that also are involved in Gnathos, whose perceptions I respect a great deal. They're exceptionally impressed with the detail and the clinical application. And of course, you're welcome to contact me about Gnathos, which really is only about fixed appliances with some comparisons to clear aligners. You're welcome to find out where
fixed appliance. I mean, there's a lot of people who I recommend doing your courses because it's about diagnostic, it's about mechanics, it's about all these things. Then that you can apply to any orthodontic case.
Well, one of the things that you'll find that we're both really enthusiastic about is problem solving.
Yeah.
And because once you know more about problem solving, then you stay away from the problems. You know the root cause of the problem versus being, like you were saying a little bit earlier, you said, yeah, when's the last time you looked at somebody's mouth? Because I was in private practice for 38 years. Well, you know, I'm sure it 37 years and 22 hours and 59 minutes that I was looked at somebody's mouth and thought, oh, let me see here. Okay, I haven't seen this. Of course, you know, I have the countenance of the all-seeing eye of Ra, you know. I mean, I look like the Dalai Lama. And here, I'm looking at the mouth thinking, I have no idea what this is. What's this? You know, why don't you bite down a little harder? What is that? Bite somewhere else.
Bite down. Bite harder. Bite harder. Did we tell you that we had to remove your wisdom tooth? No. Let's do it now.
All right, Stephane. Well, I'll look forward to the next scheduled oddcast of the Pod Couple.
Yeah, the oddcast of the Pod Couple. Yeah, that's it. That's everything we had for you today.
All right.
Be safe.
What? How do you say it? How do you say it? Au reservoir? Is that what you say?
Au reservoir. Au reservoir. Bonjour. Tout le monde. Au reservoir.
Okay, ciao.
Give my best to Madame.
Same to you. Bye-bye.
Et voilà, mesdames et messieurs, ladies and gents, the first episode of The Odd Couple. We already look forward to our next conversation that we will again gladly share with you. I'm Stephane Reinhardt, Director of Education for the C.L.E.A.R Institute. Have fun creating moments of force, moments of couple, and never stop making the move.